Hey everybody, it's Dwayne, developer evangelist here at GitKraken. I'm here with Elio Struyf, the creator of Front Matter, an open source project that he's going to tell you all about. But Elio, could you just give a quick high-level introduction to yourself?
Hello, everyone. So I'm Elio Struyf. I'm living in Belgium, working for Rapid API. I'm a Microsoft MVP and a GitHub Star. And I work a lot of open source projects like Front Matter, but I think I've around 15 of these VS Code extensions. That's where my passion is on bringing more automation to a developer and making your code editor more functional and making magic there, because that's what we love to do as a developer, making magic out of VS Code.
Here at GitKraken, we also love VS Code. Obviously, we have GitLens, but we're not here to talk about GitLens. We're here to talk about Front Matter. It's a project that popped up on Michelle Mannering's from GitHub's release radar, and that's where I first learned about it. And for folks that might not have heard of it yet, could you give us a quick high-level overview of what Front Matter is all about?
So Front Matter, if I go back to 2019, that's where it's actually originated from. So in 2019, I was in the conversion in the migration process from WordPress over to Hugo. And what I missed in that process was a tool that could manage my front matter of the page, the metadata of the page, like the title, the author, and so on. So as I love to use VS Code back then already, I started thinking of, can I make my life a little bit easier and just create an application that does it for me, or to show a couple of things. And back then it was just a couple of actions that it could do: generate me a slug, do some basic things on the title management, and so on. And then I let it go for a couple of years. And then last year, I had the idea of, hey, let's make it a real CMS. Basically, I had a lot of time because I had a bike accident. I wasn't allowed to work back then. So I was stuck to my bed for 6 weeks. So what do you do if you're a coder? You start working on these hobby projects. And that's when it struck me like, hey, let's make a real CMS out of Front Matter, because the basics are there, or the blueprint is there. So let's start doing that. And the more and more I started doing that, I saw that a lot of people wanted to have the same experience in their VS Code environment. And that's where I said, okay, this is something that others need. So let's do more and more work on it. And eventually it became almost a real CMS. So that's where it is right now.
What's the feedback you've gotten so far from people? Like, what's the overall reason people are picking it up or saying that they're liking it out there?
I think the main reason is so many people are already using VS Code these days, and they are coming from a particular site or framework or whatever, like WordPress. And they are moving over to a static site, and then they are looking for something. And there's quite a lot of CMSs out there, but most of them require either a login or a service that always needs to be up and running, where Front Matter only requires your editor. And that's where most of the people are doing their work. They just open their editor, start writing the content. So it's directly inside of the editor experience. And the cool thing about VS Code is that you can add multiple of these extensions, like Grammarly, to have authoring of your text and so on. So these things, they can all help you. So it's a really good editor experience. It's not VS Code these days can be anything what you want, depending on the extensions that you install. So feedback around that was in the beginning like, hey, we need this and this and this. So I couldn't keep up. And these days it's adding more enhancements or features than it's actually bug fixing, but probably there are bugs. But most of the time it's, hey, we need this kind of experience, or this is what we are missing, or I do this. And I also try to make sure that front matter fits in with any static site generator. So there was a lot of feedback around Jekyll. I'm not a Jekyll user, but apparently there are a couple of ways how Jekyll handles drafts and published pages. So then we created a way for Jekyll to also allow front matter to be aware of, hey, this is Jekyll, and this is how Jekyll processes pages. So that's what we do. Everything is based on feedback. So I take good base and then everything what we can do to enhance the experience. That's where we listen to feedback.
That's a really good segue into the next thing I want to talk about is managing a project and listening to feedback and working with collaborators out there. But wondering if you'd have any like stories or highlights from that journey, as well as any advice that you could give to other open source maintainers or people that are thinking about open sourcing their projects.
It all depends on how much feedback you get, of course, and it's always a bit a struggle between what the feedback is and what the experience of the author is of that feedback. So what I see a lot with front matter is that there's a lot of editors out there that are giving feedback. So that are not necessarily developers by heart. So they give pretty good feedback, but that are probably not the authors that are going to be developing a new feature. So that said, that's how also a project is going to live, by this kind of feedback. But then you have to do the work, and it's about managing all these issues, giving them priority, seeing who likes it, who doesn't. So based out of that, it's always on time concerns. It's your own private time that you need to put on there. If it makes sense to my own blog, because I still use front matter a lot for my own blog, so that's probably going to be a little bit higher in my priority list than if there's a feature like I'm never going to touch that part. So then I always hope that somebody else is going to pick it up. If not, then at some point I will pick it up there as well. But good communication, open communication is a key here. So asking for feedback on your own, from if you receive feedback from, hey, this is not working, be open about it and try to gain as much knowledge as possible out of that particular issue, and try to also see if you can solve it like this. Is there even a better way how to handle it in the future, for instance?
What other projects are you seeing out there that are getting you excited? Are there any other open source projects that you wish more people knew about?
Right now, it's most of the time I'm looking at VS Code. VS Code is one of the biggest open source projects out there. So that's really what interests me a lot. So I'm mostly digging through the VS Code's codes in order to see what is happening there. Also to know what can be done in the future. So that's one project that I always love to just follow and see what is going on there.
It's hard to talk about VS Code around here at GitKraken without bringing up GitLens. I already mentioned it earlier. I understand you do run that. It's installed, and you rely on it for seeing inline authorship.
Correct. I think that's one of the default extensions that everyone is going to install, just because this is going to give you the best Git experience in there. So I use it for seeing the history of my current files that I'm working on, just to see what changed or what did I do wrong, or to just go back. Inline authorship or commit messages is also a good one. So then I can always blame myself when I did something wrong, like, hey, somebody created the bug. Oh, that was me.
Lastly, if people want to get involved with front matter or just find you on the internet, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
I think the best way is I created myself a new site, which is elio.dev. So my first name.dev, where all the links to my profile are, like Twitter, LinkedIn, my blog, and so on. So even Front Matter is on there. So if you want to get in touch, you will find everything on that site.
Thank you very much for being here, and thanks for making open source happen.
Thank you very much for having me and for the opportunity to talk about Front Matter. Have a great day.